All right, I think I am back after some lunch and stuff, but we're gonna actually rig this silly guy. So first thing I'm gonna do is come over here and shift select all of my layers, right click, and come down to group with selection. And I'm gonna call this top layer Elephant. I know, very, very original title. And now I'm going to take the root here and put it on the figure somewhere. That way when we select the layer, it is covering everything. And the point of doing this to start with is so that I can, make him larger if I need. Also, this elephant layer now, we're going to right click on it and we're going to say convert to bone. And that is going to convert our bone, our layers there, our group, into a skeleton, a layer we can put our skeleton or create our skeleton on. So I'll get it spit out sometime here. So with that, we're going to be on frame 0 on our bone layer now. And I'm going to start creating the actual simple skeleton we're going to be using. So I'm going to add a bone here. And just somewhere in the body, this is going to be kind of like the body control. So I'm just going to go like that. And there we have a bone that everything's essentially going to be parented to. And then I'm going to create my leg bones. So for the the rear right leg, I'm just going to make a bone that comes down here, one that goes down to here, and one that goes across to the foot. They may not be appropriately placed just yet or perfectly placed. So I'm going to select this, and with our transform bone tool, I can move these around, snap them into place, get them a lot more aligned the way they should be. And then we can start creating other bones. Now this is something I've not shown before, but if I select this entire leg's worth of bones, you can see when I click on the parent here, you can see how these are parented. The foot to this one, to this one, to this one, and this one to the body, or the main control here. But if I have these bones selected and I go if I go Control C, Control V, I've now duplicated these bones, you can see, and I'm going to move these over and position them into a good spot here. The only problem with these, though, is that they will be parented to the other bones, I believe. So if I click here, you can see these are all kind of possibly whacked up. But this one parents to here, and to here. We need to make sure, though, that top bone, this one, if we check the parent, is parented to this bone. So now they're correct. We just saved ourselves a whole lot of time making 2 legs worth of bones. In the same regard, the same way, I'm going to grab all of these bones and I'm going to go Control C, Control V, and we're going to grab them and move them forward now. And with this done like so, we're going to have to check the parenting. They're right within each other, like the foot goes to the shin goes to the thigh. But now we need to make sure that each thigh goes to that body bone. So we're going to make sure if I click on this bone here, I can click reparent bone and then click the body bone. And then if I click on this bone here, click on the reparent bone and then the body bone, it will now be parented to it. And everything is parented correctly. And our legs are done other than actually, parenting to the layers or the points. So now, this is our main control bone. If we want to, we can move this around. I think I might pull this higher up. I'm just going to have to move those legs back down. But I kind of want this kind of central. So I'm going to grab all of my leg bones now again and just move those all back down, not selecting that one. And we'll just grab these and say, please put these back where they go. But we just have our body bone a little bit higher. There's no super point to that unless something has to pivot off of it from there, but I just wanted it there. This is a control bone, though. It's not really the spine. In fact, we didn't even have to do what I just did. But with it selected, I'm going to make a little spine here by just kind of going from here to here and here to here, just in case we need a body bend. And then I'm going to go here for the head bone. And then I'm going to make some bones for the trunk. Now you could do this the way I'm doing them here, or I'm going to back this up. Before you draw it, you can come over here to this tool called Sketch Bones, which is right here. And with this bone highlighted, we're going to go right at the end of it. And I'm just going to draw a line of bones and let go. And this will create, normally, and it doesn't seem like it has, it will normally create a chain of bones. Let me see if I can get that done again. This just is an example how to do this. I move slower with a lot more bends. Normally it will do this. For some reason it's not working, but that is one option if you can get it to work. What I do want to do right now, though, because I have that trunk with the warp layer, this here, I want to draw bones that kind of coincide with those points. So what I'm going to do is grab this bone from the bone layer, just get it more aligned. Something else I just remembered that I have to do is turn down all the bone power and all these bones. But with this here, and now this trunk warp selected, I'm going to go ahead and draw more bones that are, appropriately placed for that. And to do that, I'm trying to remember if there's a way to turn on this layer at the same time. I think I can shift select. There we go. And now, nope, that is not true. So I'm going to go ahead and draw, let's see how many points we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So in the bone layer, and we can move these after we're done, but I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to try and get these to snap to those positions. I don't know why I can't figure out why they're not really snapping. This is the part of doing videos I hate because I forget and then I feel like an idiot. Let's try and see. Why can't I see this? Oh, well, no. I was thinking I could move these. Now I could move the layer and the points from the trunk. What do you call it? Mesh layer here. This would also work. There is another way to get these placed appropriately while you're doing this. I just, for some reason, can't remember what I'm doing all of a sudden. Anyway, the real point here is to make sure these are going to work with the mesh warp. So when we go and apply this and make sure it moves that particular layer, we're going to need to make sure that the mesh warp is what these bones are affecting. I'll get back to that. So back to our bone layer, we are going to need some bones, at least 2, I think, maybe more than that, for our ears. So I'm going to select the head bone because that's where these are going to be rooted to or parented to. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that'll give me this sort of rounded shape there that we can move and stretch around. And if I press my up arrow, we can come back to certain areas. But right through here, I'm thinking, what if we added a little more, detail? So let's go back to this bone now, and I'm going to say, well, what if I put a chain of 3 bones here? And what if we went up here and I put a chain of bones, here? And this is how you do like a dragon wing. These would become dynamic bones and wiggle and move when these bones up here move around. We'll see if it works, but for now we'll just leave them. Now I'm going to go to the head bone again, and I'm going to add 2 bones. One that'll hold this jaw in place, and one that'll be able to allow me to move it in and out, almost like a lip movement. And I think the tail would be the last thing. So I'm going to go up my chain of bones here by pressing the up arrow. And now I'm just going to draw a tail. And I'm going to put 4 bones. I don't know how many are in this tail because it does have that same overlay. So we're going to look at the tail real quick and count the number of dots that are supposed to be in here. And we can also move those points around. So this could move around to there. 1, let's say 2. And where is my, we can add more, you know, there's no problem with that. This curve there, though, really should be, and we want to be using the curve there. This should be here. So there's 1, like so. There's 2 here, 3 here. So they're close. And 4 would be this. 5 is going to be somewhere in here, I guess. And, you know, we'll just leave the 6th one where it's at. We can adjust the bones, of course, to match this. So I'm going to go back up to the bone layer and make sure the bones aren't like wigging out kind of like they are at the moment. Like this guy needs to shift over here. This one really needs to be like that. Snap this one back into place. Put it back like that. And I think that's pretty obvious how I'm doing and what I'm doing there. So now back to that tail, the warp layer. We need to make sure the points are, you know, pretty much where they're supposed to go. Like this. And they will work better because now they're, you know, generally in the right place. So just leave it like so. All right, so now we have the bones of this ear, and if we want to, we can copy them. I'm going to leave them for now. If I need to double them up for the other side, I will. We have front leg, back leg, all that there. This is going to be the lower jaw. This is obviously going to be the upper because it is the snout. I think the eyes, I'm not going to move with a bone. These will be done with a smart bone dial, and that'll make more sense later too. Okay, so with that, we need to start telling what bones are, you know, rooted to what. Let's start with the tail. On this tail, we have a layer of this tail warp. And what we want to do is we want to mount the bones essentially within that. So we're going to have to do this. We could do this point-wise, I believe. And because we don't want to do it just layer-wise because it'll be just one layer and we have multiple bones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select which bone I want to use here and which points are going to go along with this bone. And you could add more points to kind of make up for, you know, anything that's weird. But with that bone selected, and unfortunately I did this wrong, I'm going to select this bone. I'm going to say apply that bone to these points, then bind it. Now I'm going to say this bone is going to be now bound to just that point. And then the next bone is going to be bound to this one. And so on. So this bone to this one. And we might as well pick both. There we go, bind points. We can test this now by selecting this manipulate bones tool, but you see there's a problem. All of our bones still have power turned up on them, and this is only for stuff like flexi binding and so on. So back in our bone layer real quick, I'm going to click and drag all the bones and turn the power off of all of them by dragging to the left. Done. So now I can go back down to that warp layer of the tail, move it around with our manipulate bones tool, and it should work. And it does not. Cool. All right, let's find out why. Because we're moving the tail, we're not moving the tail warp. Let's go ahead and see what happens. And it is moving the warp. So once again, I messed up and said go down to that layer. We want to move the bones at the bone layer. So now we're going to do that, and it still is not bound for whatever reason. And I will show you why, because I just remembered. Down here in the tail, we, in the tail warp, we bound the bones to the spine. We didn't really want to do that. We wanted it to bind it to this particular mesh that we've created. So let's go and create some points along this tail. Absolutely crazy, and yes, I did forget to do that. So within the tail warp, no bones selected. I'm just going to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. I think I am. I know this is a really great tutorial when I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just making sure. Tail warp. You can subdivide this manually by adding points along this. So we're going to hope that... All right, I'm almost ready to take a break because I'm obviously doing something wrong here. What is it, Sean? Tail warp. We have. Where is the mesh? Oh, Lord. I've forgotten something. And I can't figure out what it is. The tail and the tail warp. This needs to be made into a mesh. So with that done, I think I can tell it to do that. I think I need to do that on this layer. I feel stupid. Let's see. Edit. Draw. See, it says create mesh layer. We have a curver layer, which is this layer. Draw. Triangulate 2D mesh. No. I mean, it seems like that's what that should be. I don't know what I'm doing. Great. Why? Why don't I know this? Oh boy. Weird. So we have create mesh layer, and this is going to triangulate that. But we have a curver layer. I think I wanted a compressible curver for starters. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the warp layer there. Try this again. I feel like a dork. We're probably going to need to do the same exact thing for that trunk. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that layer. Let's try this with the tail one more time. I feel like an idiot. So let's get rid of this. Nope, not that. We need to get rid of the actual curver layer. And I don't know why I can't do that. There's one dot gone. Let's see, that's going to start. That's going to get rid of my stroke there. So the stroke is good. I think I need to leave that stroke. That's not a problem. I think the problem is I have no mesh layer. So if I select this now, draw, compressible curver layer. Okay. Man, why am this so confusing to me right now? I've done this before. And I go here to move the stuff around. And I'm confusing myself. Because you can do that with a stroke. I'm kind of confused here. I'm going to add some points just to make sure this is like usable to match the bones. That is fine. Let's get this down to the end. All of this needs to be obviously made smaller. So I'm just going to fix the width while I'm looking at it, knowing that's definitely does need to be done. Why am I having a problem? If anybody's watching this and knows anything about compressible curves and curve layers and things like that, please sound off. because for some reason I became like pretty highly confused all of a sudden about it. And I'm not normally like that. I don't think I'm having a stroke. I just think that I make this funny joke all the time. I had one, so I can. No, I'm just kind of confused as to why I don't remember how to fix this. For some reason, I thought you had to take the warp and make a mesh layer out of the warp, but I'm not seeing that. And maybe it's because I made the tail out of a stroke that I can't make a mesh because it's a stroke layer. Maybe. This says triangulate mesh, create curve layer. Already have done that. We've already done a compressible curve layer, which is what we want. But it is possible that I need to wait on the tail and the snout and look that up later. It says it stands. I don't think I can. I don't know why I can't, though. I mean, it's just a curve that you're moving with bones. Done it 100 times. I'm confusing myself, so I'm getting freaked out, I guess. But because now if I move it, obviously it's not going to move, or the artwork. The artwork should, though, be already connected to it and not have a problem. So compressible curver, warp layer. That's what we need to do, is connect it to the tail. So when I say okay, oh, it looks like it turned itself back off. And it's on frame 0. Select warp layer. I'm going to say tail. If I can find it again this time. There we go. Tail. Apply. And it goes back to none. Weird, man. So it might be because I made this tail out of a stroke. That would explain what's wrong with my understanding of what's going on. So what we're going to do is delete both of those layers. The snout should work, but I'm going to redraw the tail as an object and not just from a single stroke. And hopefully that will make it a lot more sense. So I'm going to go ahead and go to vector layer. I'm going to call this tail. And I'm just going to make a single piece tail for the moment. I can attach other stuff to it. And I am going to go and put this behind the body. Pin the tail on the elephant here. And let's just go ahead and make a rectangle for now. I will move this and shape it. I've got to move it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I thought that was rather funny, but never mind. We're going to rotate that around to something approximate. I will put the root where it goes. There we go. Somewhere here. And then add and move points. This is just mainly a test here for, I mean, I'll use this piece for the final tail, but I need to make sure it works as well. So let me just get a basic tail in here. Make sure my technique is going to work. And that has to be why I can't remember, I can't figure out what's going on with this, because it does have to be a mesh, I guess. I mean, that would make sense. And let me take the layer. I don't know. I'm going to have to look up another tutorial on it to be sure. But we're going to take that tail layer. And I'm going to say draw, make a compressible curve. I mean, I hope this works this time. I have a feeling it may not still. Which is not cool for a live stream. But you guys are, witnessing my pain right along with me at least. Okay, that's fine. Just get this sorted out width-wise. Yeah, it's very, I don't know, it kind of makes my mind hurt when I'm doing something like this and it just doesn't make any sense. Like I've had it removed from my mind or something. Freaks me out a little bit because of any other brain problem I may or may not have had. Like, am I broken again? I don't know. So with that layer here now, that is the warp. We want to be able to take that warp, and we have a compressible curve layer. We have to somehow attach it without a problem. So I'm going to go into that layer and try to see if I can say that's the warp layer. We're gonna leave that. I need to go to the tail though and go into its layer and tell it to attach it to the tail warp, which it already is. Okay, that makes sense. That's normal. Then how come when I move the tail warp, it doesn't move my tail? So I think what I may or may not need to do is try to, I'm making crap up here, is take this bone and try to pin it to points. And I'm going to pin it to those 2 points and bind. Don't know if that's going to work. Let's manipulate it and see. And it works for the skeleton and the points, but it does not work for the actual mesh. And for some reason, my brain is just totally having a brain fart or meltdown or whatever, because I can't understand why this isn't working where it automatically does that. I thought I remember that's how it works, is what I'm saying. So why can I not bind my tail layer to my warp layer? And so I'm going to check the warp layer. I don't think you have to triangulate that. I'm pretty sure that did not do what I wanted it to do. I'm going to move the bones here. I'm pretty sure this is not what I wanted. And yeah, see, it's not attached either way. So that's what I'm not understanding. I mean, this warp layer should be attached, and it's not going to say it here because it can't be its own warp layer. But this one here should say tail warp. Great. So why isn't it working? Yeah. Not cool, man. All right, so we're getting rid of the tail warp curver crap. I'm just not going to do it in that method. And I'm just going to use a standard, warp layer, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to take this particular layer and try to, I don't know what, convert. Maybe that's what I needed to do, I guess. And I know you can still come in here and draw other lines along here for breaking everything up. I didn't really want to do it that way. That gives it more resolution. And you have to move more points when you do, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to see on the bone layer now. I think I've lost my tail layer altogether. I don't know what's happening, guys. I don't know. So we'll leave it like so. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way I always do it, because that's a little... I don't understand why I'm confused. I think it's my biggest issue right now. So I'm just going to add in some more points. Some of those probably don't even need to be there. Hey. So 2 per joint, 1 on either side. That should be all right. I'm going to go ahead and select this, these points, bind, and this bone, and bind. And then this bone, bind. And then, of course, the last one. I know this will work for my tail, but it's not really what I wanted to do, but I'll look that up and we'll do that later. So this will work here. It will allow me to do whatever. Obviously, some of this will need corrective. And I probably didn't even need the points that I put here. Let's go back and fix this again, for crying out loud. These probably don't need to be here. These don't need to be here. Somebody I met online, Greg, kind of pointed that out to me, that he was using stuff like this just fine without needing all the extra points, the double points in the joints, which I do normally do, and I'm realizing it's not really necessary, and you can actually just use your curvature to account for any of those weird shapes that can happen. You really only need, to put the points at the joints. That's a little rhyme for you guys. Anyway, so now when I move this, let's go back to the bone layer. Move our bones around. This should be better. We can correct these, not a problem. They're a little wonky there, but like I said, with smart bones, they're easy to correct. That is pretty standard there. So I'll add a little poof to the tail in a while. Now this one, don't know exactly what it's going to do in comparison, but it could allow us to maybe make him stand up or something. What we need to do is say this is our control bone. We're not going to worry about that. It has no influence or power, much like many of the fake leaders in this country. But what I'm going to do is grab the bone here and just point bind this guy to the back half of the body layer. And there we go. Now we do not have enough resolution in this body to bend it or move it. So back over in our add points tool, we are going to add a few points. It's going to lump him out for a second because he's trying to correct his shape, her shape, to the fact that there's these extra points. I'll move those better in place here. I did want a very round elephant, so when I want an elephant, I want it round. That's what I say. Never. Okay, so with that, we can now take the bone, this bone here from the body. We can take, actually we need to take the body layer. My bad, I'm getting lost. And I want to, with that bone, select the points that I want this one to be influenced mostly by. So basically this. I think we'll include this one. And bind those. And now we'll take the bone in front. And I'm going to bind the rest of them to that one. Bind those. And now we can take the, let's just do the head first. And we're going to need some more resolution there probably, but I'm going to leave it at the 4 right now. And if it does anything weird, like when we rotate the head or anything, then I'll add some more. but I don't need them at the very second. So we're going to take the head bone and these 4. Let's just layer bind that to this bone. Let's see. I don't think the snout's going to work any better than the tail did. So let's go ahead and take the back here. We'll select the snout, the trunk. That's what it's called. And with the first bone, I'm going to actually take the first points of this and link it to that head bone so they will stretch nicely and stay attached to it. And then this one we could do with a few more points here. So I'm going to go ahead and put one here and one here at the very least, one here and here. That should be okay to get us started. I'm going to grab this bone there. And we want the points here associated with it. Bind. Then the next bone. And we're going to bind to these. We could have used more, but let's just go with what we've got. You know, I'm going to throw 2 more in just to keep that from warping strangely. This one as well. Probably this one too. All right, so anyway, let's go back to the trunk bone. Make sure that we have those bound to these 4 that we want. We'll move to the next one, this one here. This will be bound to these. Then this one will be bound to these. And then this one will get all the rest for now. We may put a little, I think I'm going to put a little control for shaping that. Not with a bone, just for point animation, shaping that stuff around. Alright, so now that's the trunk. Let's test it. Right here. It's not going to be perfect, but it is going to move, you know, somewhat close. Any of those loops we'll take out with smart bones. That's not an issue. I just want to make sure that it does move, which it does, somewhat appropriately. And then with the jaw, we need to make sure that this bone is selected and these points here go with, yeah, I guess go with that jaw, and that this bone is selected. We probably need to put a couple of points, or at least one more here. I'm going to put 2 just to kind of hold the shape better. I don't want things flopping and flexing. So with that bone there, we're going to select all of these and bind those. So now when we move the jaw, we'll get the full jaw movement, and then we'll get the lip-ish movement that we can refine, or I can even put another bone in there to get more articulation. You get the idea. But with the jaw now, these points will need to also be parented to the head bone. So I'm going to select the head bone right with my tool for doing so, right here. And then the points that need to be selected and bound to this head bone really need to be maybe these instead, just those. Bind. Could probably add another one here just to help that stay anchored to the head. So the points needed to be added to that are those. Bind, and we're good to go. So now when we move the head, you know, the head moves. Actually, that's not what I meant. When we move the head bone, the head will move. The eyes aren't bound yet. The jaw will move here, and the lip will move here. Don't care for the face shape where the mouth is, so we'll fix that. And the way we're going to fix that is I'm going to take the head, and we're going to add some points. This is one of the reasons why I kind of should have done this earlier. Now we're going to have a mouth that will be able to open and close and all that good stuff. All right, so that'll look a little weird when you're looking at it this way, but when we, in fact, let me, maybe, I'm getting lost. Let's, this is the head. This is the jaw. That we don't want. So let's fix it. Back to the head. I am going to add a point here. And I'm going to move this point away so that we have a mouth shape. I may or may not need to fix this end of the trunk. I don't know yet. We'll find out. I probably don't even need that. So let's grab the jaw again. We can open this wider and it looks good. Now it'll talk like meh, 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 meh. Like meh, 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 meh. And it won't be coming from there as much, but mostly from here. This will just be shaping the words a little bit. So that works. The head works better. Okay. This might need some limits or something going on because it's kind of weird. I'll figure that out. Once everything's joined, it'll make sense though. So let's go now to the eye layer. We're going to take the entire eye and just bind it to the head bone. I am also going to take the ear, bind it to the head bone. And we're going to take the ear L and do the same thing. So that means that anything inside the folder also gets bound to that bone as well. So when I move it now, this can move all those. Even though nothing's bound yet, this will be able to do the same thing once it's there. But when I move the head, you can see all of that so far works together. We just need to take the lids. Where are my eyelids? Lid, top and bottom. That's for the right eye. Should probably, well, I don't think they go in there, but they do need to go either inside the head folder. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just layer bind them to the head, so to the head bone. They're never going to not be layer bound to the head bone, so I'm not worried about it doing that. Let's get one layer at a time. Top layer looks like it's got its origin okay. Am I right? Am I right? Let's put it here anyway. Yep. And we're going to take that top layer and layer bind that to the head bone. We're going to take the bottom eyelid here and we're going to layer bind that to the head bone. Top and bottom. All of that should be good to go now. I'm going to check back on our bone layer. Move this around. Head moves. Okay, the other eye needs to be there, but overall I think that's pretty good. So this would be I, where are we at? L. Come back here. The IL layer needs to be layer bound to the head bone as well. Cool. Okay, that's like 90% of it. The body, I believe we do have complete, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to move this. I think it's really just about the legs. You can see this moves everything, but the legs are not attached, so that's what comes next. And then we'll be done. So leg rear L, it's going to be this bone here. We need to add a lot more points to this shape, this layer. So at least at the joint parts, we need to add those. I'm going to add these to keep some flexing and warping from happening around those areas. That's why I add so many more points. That's why I've always done that. With that, I think we can add these without destroying anything in case. On that leg now, we're going to select that bone, and then we're going to tell it what points. And those will be these points down to here. And we're going to bind those. Then the next bone is going to be this guy. And we're going to bind these points to it. And now obviously the foot will not move yet, but the leg will move and bend and all that good stuff. And we'll work on the smart bones to fix the actual, bends that will happen. Now let's attach the foot. That's just going to probably be a layer bound foot. So this will be, looks like I lost a drive or something. So the, where's my foot? Rear left. We need to take that and layer bound that to this foot. So while we're at it, if we want, we can go with we're looking for the foot rear right. That one can be layer bound to there. We can go with the foot front right, which would be layer bound to that guy. And the foot front left, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Foot front right needs to be layer bound here. The foot front left will be bound, if I can grab it, this one here. Just make sure everything's good. So if we do move legs, we have feet going with them eventually. These move, but only the feet will move here and here. Let's get the legs bound. So we're going to go with the rear right leg. Leg rear right. Once again, we're going to need more points. So I'm just going to put them at the joint to start with. And I'm going to throw in just a few to control some of the warping. And also this place. And maybe one or two down here. And now leg rear right. I am going to bind this upper bone to these points. I'm going to put the entire knee, little swiggle in there, bind those. And then this bone, the lower bone of the leg, will go to these points here, and hopefully that'll be enough. And let's test it, because I believe we already got the foot taken care of there for that one. Now if we move the leg, the foot works, the leg bends, lifts, nothing gets stretched behind. This one works. It just needs, obviously, its its modification bones. Cool. All right, so let's do the rear. So we got the rear, both the rear legs, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check. Yeah. So now we got to do the front legs, which we got front right. We got the foot attached. Let's do the legs, front leg left. Let's do that one. It's the one in the back. So we'll do it at the bend point, the joint point. That's probably okay. I'm going to throw a couple for good measure here. One toward the bottom. They typically don't need that, but I'm just doing it on purpose. This is that rear darker leg. And so now we're going to go to our bones. The upper one now will get all these points on it. And then these here will go on the lower part. I believe we have the feet completely attached for all things. So we're just going to jump over to the leg front right, this one here. Add our remaining points. Get the joint here and here. The anti-warpers. It's a good name. And it's a good band name, maybe. Put these here. Sorry, my voice is a little ragged right now. I'm going to select the bone we need, and I will add all of those points, including the knee scribble. And, of course, the bone for the lower leg and all of its points. And that should be it for the basic rig. We're going to go back up to the main layer and test some of this. Now the ear is not rigged yet, so that would be the next thing to do. So I'm going to check the head. Looks good. This kind of puffs up a little bit. All of this will be sorted out, because I think instead of, it just depends how we want him to move. Do I want him to move with IK on all four legs, which is typical what you do. If he's going to be bipedal, we would have to change that. But I think overall this is correct. Looks good to me. Obviously some workarounds with this. But I think our overall for a quadruped, that should work. And instead of, I think I'm going to mount these to the chest like you would a bipedal character. I think so. So we're going to go into reparenting here, and these guys are going to reparent from this central bone to the chest. And same with this one, because otherwise they'll tear away if he decides to rear up. So that one reparent to that chest bone. So now let's test that one more time. This will come up at the top half of the body, which just makes more sense. This will go up like that. I mean, that gives them a lot more character possibility. And don't worry, we'll worry about the pivot points of these things in a second here. All right, so that's the basic rig. We just need to do all of the smart bone stuff, the corrective bones, you know, and then the controls like the eyes, ears, and that kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and get this ear sorted though. So the ear right is connected to the head, and what I also want to do is to make sure point wise where this is stuck as well. So I'm going to take the regular ear layer, and we're going to go, am I in the right spot? What am I not looking at correctly here? Here is that, then the ear is this, and the ear inside. And it's not letting me do what I need. I figured that might be the case. So I'm wanting to parent, not parent, but I'm wanting to point bind this, but because this folder is bound to the head, it's kind of overriding the point binding, I think. So I'm going to clear that. I was trying to be lazy about it. So bone, we're going to release layer and points. And also for the other ear, release layer and points. I tried to do it all in one go. It needs to be done separately. So with this ear right, it needs to be bound not to the head, but it needs to be bound to its main root bone at the least. I believe that would be best. So I'm going to go and say, hey, you, this bone, we're going to bind this stuff to. Let's go this stuff to. Bind that. This bone is going to get, well, the very few bone points that we have. So I'm going to do that. And we're going to take that bone and we're going to bind these points to that one. this one too. Then we're going to add some more points as well here. So there just aren't enough. And we're going to say, hey, we're going to bind U3 to that. And then add a couple more points, at least one here. Maybe, yeah, definitely one here. And I'm going to say you are bound. I bind you, Nancy. Never mind. And bind those to those. The others are going to get bound to the other points down here, where that they're going to be kind of flopping around and you know, affecting. So I'm just going to put a couple here and here to kind of say, hey, yeah, this controls that. So these will mainly be only controlling the ones at the end, so it's a little bit of a waste, but it does still work. So this one is going to be affecting these guys, and then this one will be affecting these. Nope, these. And then him. These. And then all those things here will become dynamic bones, but I'm not really worried about it the very second. Let's see what we've got in by way of ear movement. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to snap that back to 0. Now we got to make sure that the inside piece works with it. So the ear inside should be all right. Looks like it's got enough points to really do what it needs. So I'm going to add one more though right here, because that's kind of a weird wasteland of almost no points. And with that, let's go ahead and bind it. So I'm going to take this bone and make sure that it's bound to these points. This bone will be bound to these. If y'all have kids or anything you want me to teach how to animate, or if you want to learn yourself, it's not just a kid's thing by far. I mean, I'm a kid, but you know. So we're going to go this. Let's include that. Oh, not that. Let's include this. And then we're going to select this last guy and make sure all these other points are connected to it. So now when we go check, everything should be good. Everything should be good here and here and here. Nice and stretchy. This will flop around and affect the under edge of the ear. Now we can go ahead and implement that if we want, by saying, hey, bones, let's grab all you guys and put on a constraint saying it is dynamic and it's the angle we want. And I'm just going to go ones across right now until we figure out where we're at. Close that. These should not have been selected for that. I feel horrible in doing that. So let's pick those bone constraints and say, nope, not you guys. And let's move some stuff around because we have these all working, but we need to animate them to see if they do have the dynamics they should. So I'm going to go like this. Just get everything keyframed at that one point. I'm going to go here to 48 and go and let's not do it that much there. Obviously these need corrective bones, but yeah, you get the idea. And quickly I'm going to close them back down again so you can see this sort of sling if they will. So let's just check it from the beginning and see if that happens. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, there's a little sling there. We can fix this even better by just making all of this much smaller. Oops, come on now. I'm trying to scale these together. I think if I'll not shift, but control. Don't know why they're not all selecting. Control. Ooh, I'm going to kill you. Control. Come on now. Alt isn't doing it. It's got to be control. So then it's got to be alt. There's no other explanation. All right. What is going on with that? I've never had this happen. So we select these and go, and there we go. We need to scale them down. So this will move very fast now, but you get the idea better. You have that wobbly. So it's too much wobbly, but you know, it's working. So we're just going to take all, we're going to take all the bones here that are dynamic. And I am going to make them less, they're going to have more damping on them. Let's get rid of these. I'm going to take these, they're going to have more damping to where they slow down. The spring should be maybe a bit faster. Torque less, maybe. Weight probably less, I think. Let's just try it anyway. Here we go. Yeah. So they're a little more rubbery. So cool. It's all working. So now we just have to worry about corrective bones, which I'm going to do the next time. All right, talk to you later. Appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, send me love letters and nasty pictures.